Last time I reviewed the PDP wired Pro Controller, more officially known as the face-off controller. While it definitely is a budget option, there are many features on it that are lacking and some things that just make the controller feel a bit excessive. However, today we have a new competitor entering the building. Meet the PowerA wireless Pro Controller, a controller licensed by Nintendo and definitely something worth checking out. Hey everybody, it's NintenDude and welcome to another episode of Nintech. Today we'll be taking a look at the PowerA wireless Pro Controller, which is honestly a great alternative for someone wanting a Pro Controller but not looking to spend $70. The PowerA wireless Pro Controller comes in for around $50, also coming in different styles such as the Mario and Link overlays. Here we're looking at the standard controller, which is still pretty clean, the Nintendo Switch Red. Starting off, the build of the controller. It's really well done. The quality isn't the same as the official Pro Controller, but compared to the PDP, this feels way more solid. The top and bottom both have a matte finish and the logo has no bumps or residue from the etching. Like the PDP face-off controller, the PowerA has mappable buttons on the underside, and unlike the PDP controller, it actually has instructions on how to set them up. And yeah, they actually work, even though the games I have don't really have a use for them, but they would be great additions for games like Doom or Fortnite or something along those lines. So let's talk about the buttons. The ABXY buttons are okay. They're not as solid as the official Pro Controller, but not as hollow as the PDP since there are wireless components that give it weight and a solid feel. They're definitely on the smaller size to me, but to the average person, it probably is an okay size. Next, the joysticks. These actually have a very smooth rotation to them and actually wider than the official Pro Controller. The response flickback in the return to neutral state is not as firm as the official Pro Controller, but it definitely has a better feel than the PDP wired controller. The official Pro Controller has possibly the best flickback of any controller I've used. It's firm while staying still and moves smoothly while in motion. While the joysticks have no thick rubber material and have a thin rubber plastic blend, the concave shape of the joystick allow your thumbs to rest relaxingly such that they don't slip off. Next, we have the D-pad, and I gotta say, this D-pad is really good. While it's not extremely flat and clicky, it requires a good amount of force to press and has a nice response to it. To top it off, it's got a gloss finish, which is a nice difference between the matte finish on the rest of the controller. Next, we have the shoulder buttons, and again, these third-party controllers are just not that great doing these. Shoulder buttons are the buttons that don't seem as useful, but if they're done wrong, you can immediately tell it's not going to give you that great of an experience. So, the R and L buttons are fine, but the actual issue is the ZR and ZL buttons. Potentially just a design flaw, but these buttons are tiny. They're smaller in height and width and definitely don't have much resistance when pressing down on them. Not to mention they're super hollow and you can definitely press these on accident, which I've done already. I actually need to keep my finger towards the top so I don't accidentally lean into the button, which is kinda uncomfortable. The design choice of this part is just really odd. They cut the width of the button in half and added this sharp end to it. There's no relaxing rest spot for your fingers anywhere. In any game that uses these buttons like Smash Ultimate, Mario Kart, or Splatoon, the player will immediately be able to notice that something isn't sitting right. Lastly, we got the middle four menu buttons. Now, I thought the PDP buttons were mushy, but these are crazy soft. They have little resistance, but it does provide a little click response because of the height the buttons are sitting at. On the official Nintendo Pro Controller, the buttons sit in the housing of the controller and have an audible click that you can feel and hear. However, the PowerA one has so much height popping out from the controller, you'll know that you're pressing it, but it feels like you're pressing nothing. So now that we gotten all that out of the way, how does this controller play with the game? Should we try with Splatoon, Mario Kart? How about Breath of the Wild? I already know you don't want to see any of that, so Smash Ultimate it is. Let's compare this wireless Pro Controller to the official Smash Ultimate Pro Controller and see how things go. Now on screen I have two gameplay sequences, one using the official Pro Controller and the other using the PowerA Pro Controller. The official wireless Pro Controller has a bit better response time, while minuscule is still noticeable while playing. The PowerA controller is a little delayed, but it doesn't affect gameplay significantly in a way that you can't play. However, something I did not mention before is that there is no rumble in this controller. While it's not a factor that affects gameplay in such a way that limits your control, I use rumble on all my games so that they provide some sort of feedback that something is happening. For example, in Smash when you hit someone, the controller rumbles, assuring you landed your hit, but on the PowerA there is no rumble and it definitely feels kind of weird. Overall, this is definitely a great purchase for someone looking for a Pro Controller under the usual price, and the biggest benefit being that it's wireless. If things like no rumble or oddly designed shoulder buttons are not an issue to you, it's a purchase worth making. However, if you already have a Nintendo Pro Controller and you want to replace it, this won't do that for you. It's extremely well made for a third-party controller, but this cannot act as a replacement, but it can act as an extra controller if you want to have friends over or want to use Pro Controllers instead of sideways Joy-Cons or something. Anyways, that's going to be it for this episode of Nintech. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.